Oh, honey, I just had the most amazing dream. You're not gonna believe this. I need you. Honey, I need you.
Is this about your big smoker?
Yeah?
I don't want to know.
Well, welcome back to the channel, everybody, and I hope you guys are at least in the mood to hear about this dream come true. That's right, Rectisserie. I got a rotisserie going on the Dual Fire 1200. Let's talk about it. Okay, time to make that dream happen. So, first thing I did was hit old Amazon, found a rotisserie system that was heavy enough to hold any turkey that I'd want to put, out there and on there, right? And it looked like it was good, but I needed to make sure I could make it work in the system itself. And then the first thing I noticed was there just wasn't enough clearance, okay? Even if the rod was at the bottom of the exhaust, there just wasn't enough. Anything on the spit was going to hit the top or the lid, so that wasn't workable. And then I remembered I had this Christmas gift from 3 Christmases back in the garage, maybe 4. Somebody gave me a turkey fryer, I don't know why. Anyhow, it had this gearing system within it that dropped, if you will, the rotisserie down into the fryer. So I noticed that I could probably scavenge this out of that system and make that work, and I did. So this is, effectively what I did was I lowered the rotisserie in the chamber, got it to where I wanted, where I had even clearance above and below. All I had to do from there was fashion some supports to hold it in place, and then a couple of other little tweaks, to make this thing work. I put a sleeve in for easy removal of the spit. This way I don't have to, try and undo any nuts in the middle of all this. And then I got some standoffs to basically get that gearing system out so that it could clear the rack support. From there, I made the uncomfortable decision to go ahead and drill a hole into the sidewall of the smoke box, and I put a grommet in place to seal that up whenever it wasn't in use. Okay, so this way I can pull this thing out and basically it'll seal up and keep the smoke in. And then mounted the rotisserie motor onto the side of the box, and there you go, and that thing slides on and off. Okay, and for this first cook, we're doing turkey. Yeah, a summer Thanksgiving. Okay, got a multi-day process going on here. The first day, we're doing a wet brine with buttermilk and salt, followed by a dry brine, borrowing that from James at Smokin' Dad Barbecue. Next, a composite butter injection, again borrowed from him. Got my own stuffing, and I'm going to stuff this bird in a special way. Composite butter under the skin, that's going to be from Chef Jean-Pierre. Truss and spear this. We're going to do a binder, rub it, put some wireless probes in it, and some aromatics to boot. Now, in terms of the cook, I'm going to cook this at 300 degrees Fahrenheit and just peek on it every 30 to 45 minutes to make sure everything's going good. And then for the finished, we're going to rest this for a minimum of 1 hour, and I'm going to pull the stuffing out, and I'm going to finish that on the direct side because I like it a little crusty. And then we're going to carve this thing up. Okay, day 1, the brine. All right, the turkey has thawed, and we are now ready to go for the wet brine. In this case, 11.5 pound butterball fresh turkey, and it has the easy open thing on the bottom. And I gotta tell you, I kind of like that feature. That's pretty easy. Now, as far as all the things on the inside, the neck, the giblets and everything else, just discarding those. I don't really do much with those. I'm gonna rinse this off and basically get it ready to go into the brine bag. Now, as far as that goes, I've got the brine bag sitting in my trusty ice cream bucket. Yeah, it's a dual purpose kind of thing. And we're going to get ready to put basically a quart of buttermilk in this first, okay? And then we're going to follow this with a little over 2.5 tablespoons from a brine mix that I use. This is a special purpose turkey brine mix. We just got addicted to it, picked it up at the grocery store and whatnot. And then the second quart of buttermilk goes in, and we're just going to cinch this up tight, place it back in the fridge for 8 to 12 hours, and that's part 1. Okay, now for part 2, we finished that wet brine. That took about 9 hours. I'm going to pat that dry, get everything ready to put some salt on top of that, and go into the dry brine, phase here. So from this point, the bird was looking pretty good. Next thing we want to do is just prepare the skin so we can try and get some crispy skin and good color out of everything. Here I'm using some Himalayan salt on there just to kind of get that dried out. Now the work begins, okay? So we finished a 12-hour dry brine and managed to get that out, and the recommendation is to let that come to room temperature, so let it just sit there for about an hour. I put that in the stove so the dog wouldn't get it while I made composite butter with some rosemary, some sage, and some thyme. Basically just let that simmer so we could infuse, if you will, the oils from those herbs into the butter itself, and sifted that out. So, and I gotta tell you, this smelled really good actually. Made me want to make some toast out of that. And from there, it was just about getting it in there and injecting it. And I went from the inside as opposed to from the outside through the skin. Just didn't want to take a risk of tearing anything. But it was pretty easy to just get that injected in there and into place and so forth. Next, a couple of tablespoons, maybe a little bit more, of sage, and into building a composite butter that we're going to put under the skin. Now, following that Chef Jean-Pierre approach, it also called for some orange zest, so there you go. Orange zest is in. Really, it's just about a matter of mashing that up, stirring that in, getting that all looking good. And then from there, getting the fingers in place to kind of separate the skin from the body of the bird. And you just got to be a little bit careful there. And then once that was separated, just inserting the butter between the skin and the bird itself. And not a lot to it. That's really all you end up having to do. Pretty straightforward. Yeah, you get your hands a little dirty, but that's the thing. Next, stuffing on a rotisserie. Yeah, I'm going to give this a shot. Now, building the stuffing, pretty normal stuff here. Start off with a couple of sticks of butter to get the onions and the celery going, and some salt on top of that. And once I got those to the point where they were translucent and such, really the only next step I had there was to put the broth in. And yes, we're a fan of stovetop. Family loves that stovetop, so did not do anything too ultra fancy here. But the wife likes the water chestnuts in place. I thought this would be a good opportunity to add my homemade sausage to the mix. It was just a choice I made. Martha Stewart stepped in and said, no, you got to put some dried black cherries in there. So yeah, okay, we did dress this up a little bit, but we're not calling it dressing, it's stuffing going in the bird. And okay, I'm trying something a little different here. I'm using some cheesecloth to kind of wrap this up and get this formed to where I can insert it into the bird and get it out easily, because I always have a hard time digging the stuff out later. So this is just my attempt at experimenting on maybe a little bit of an easier way to make that happen. There you go. All tucked into place and, able to get some of those juices and everything in there. Next, we're trussing this up as tight as we can. And I gotta tell you, it's a little bit tricky. I think I did this wrong. I should have come at it from a couple of different angles, but there you go. Rubbing this down with a little bit of olive oil, just to kind of act as a binder for the rub that I'm putting on top of this. And I'm using that Recteq whole hog that I got from the mystery box because it's just got a lot of flavor to it, so making that happen. Next, another Martha Stewart ad, going with a cheesecloth wrap. So we take a little bit of wine and what's left over from our butter that I did the infusion in. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to soak some cheesecloth in that, and we're going to wrap it around the bird. Now this serves the purpose of protecting the skin until you're ready to really kind of brown it and give it that golden hue a little bit later on. And I have to say, she really knows her techniques, because this Martha approach delivered one golden bird, and you'll check this out a little bit later when we get some pictures of it and whatnot. So now just kind of trusting it up a little bit further so that everything is good when we have this thing turning on the spit. Now I guess this should be the time where I tell you, this is my first time to do a rotisserie anything. So yeah, I get this in here and I'm thinking I'm getting it a little bit in the center and everything, but I come to find out that I'm just a little bit off. I think it was a little bit too much to one side, because when I did the pick up and hold it test, it did kind of flop one way. But hey, it still worked. So I'm going to put some probes in, and this way we can measure everything. So I've got one in each breast, and then I put one in the thigh meat area that they talk about, and then I went ahead and shoved one into the stuffing. All right, it's game time. We're cooking at 300 F, and we're mounting this thing into the sleeve, and it went in there just as planned. And you know what? I'm going to roast this on top of some vegetables, or so I thought. It wasn't enough clearance. So anyhow, those vegetables are going into the smoke box, and we're just going to smoke roast them on the top rack up there. So that should work out fine. Okay, we're going to take those leftover herbs that I had and put those on the drip pan. That way when they heat up, they start to smoke a little bit. We get a little bit of herb smoke inside the dual fire indirect. Now after about 30 minutes, started to get a little bit of color, on the bird and whatnot. And things were looking pretty good. The rigging was sound and everything was holding its own. 30 minutes later, still the same. We started seeing a little bit of juice coming off that, and I had a drip pan in place to catch that. And yeah, this was starting to shape up. Color started to deepen a little bit, and the temperatures were looking good. I stopped it here just a little bit so I could mop it a little bit with that baster that I got from the Race Club. And yeah, I was pretty pleased. Removed the Martha Stewart cheesecloth to start getting some color for the final part of the cook, and continued the basting efforts. And yeah, the color on this was starting to deepen up, quite a bit. So I was more than happy with what I was seeing and what I was smelling. And now it's time to take this thing off, because I'm thinking we're done. Okay, this is looking really good. Depth of color on this is great, and came out pretty easy. That sleeve worked good. Now, because I was cooking pretty low in terms of temperature, that took a little over 4 hours to do. So popping out the temperature probes there, getting rid of the trusting and everything that I put on top of there. It actually ended up holding everything pretty well. But yeah, it worked. The plan, the dream came together. Even my goofy experiment with the stuffing in a bag in the bird seemed to, function pretty good. I was able to pull that out without too much scoopage and whatnot. And it worked out pretty good. And yes, I did remove the temperature probe that was in there. Yeah, there you go. And I realized putting chunks of sausage in there looks a little awkward, but it tasted great. And what a beautiful bird. Oh man, it was good. And the carving on this was pretty easy as well. Everything just kind of fell apart pretty straightforward. And you guys know I'm a sloppy slicer, so the electric knife had to come out and help me finish it up. But what a marvel. This worked well. I got to tell you, I was pretty pleased with it. Paired that up with the vegetables that were in there from the smoke box. And then, of course, we had the stuffing, and it was good. Now, as far as takeaways go, okay, the rigging held up fairly well all in all. There were a few places where the joints backed out, and so Loctite needed to be put in place in those areas. This is one of them right there. Went ahead and took that apart, put some Loctite in, get that in place. Another spot right here did the same, just to make sure that one didn't back out. But this one did back out. This is the one that caught my attention to it. And the little grommet there didn't really survive too well. So, lesson learned. But I had spare grommets, so just popped a new one in place while I'm not using it, and I'll just pop that out when I decide to use it. It's pretty straightforward. So that worked out pretty good, and I think it was easy to mount that in place, and the motor held up well. It cycled around just like it was needed to, and so did the pivot drive. That worked out pretty good as well. The bolts and everything held in place. That functioned as needed. And then, pulled that out. It was back to normal. It must be Zen time.
Dr. Nova Maven will be clear as a hospitalist and CACD.
And do me a favor, like and subscribe and give me some comments. Truly appreciate it.